Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Kevin Staples.
And you're listening to Rainbow Country
with Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, Box of Sin. Gay nightlife and electronic music come together in this collection of 54 12-inch mixes. And here to fill us in on Box of Sin is the man who curated the project, UK music consultant and DJ, Mark Wood. That and more in episode 382, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Garrett Conley, author of Boy Erased, a memoir.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Segato.
Hi, I'm Gord Depp with the Spoons. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto, and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down in Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #1 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, UK-based music consultant Mark Wood, who works with the likes of Universal Music, BMG Music, Demon Music Group, and others, joins me to talk about the process of curating a new music box set called Box of Sin. Gay nightlife and electronic music come together in this collection of 12-inch mixes over 54 tracks. Box of Sin is available on 5 CDs or a 4 vinyl set. You have high energy, deep house, Eurobeat, synth pop, acid house. We'll find out all about Box of Sin and how it ties into 80s gay nightlife and more. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring a Box of Sin 3-song set, as well as some queer rap. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 382 into Rainbow Country. And our first stop, the Rainbow Country Bookstore. Today, a reading from Deep Sniff, from UK author Adam Smith, who reveals the long history of poppers in his book, Deep Sniff, A History of Poppers and Queer Futures. By the way, the reading is accompanied by the parody song, Just a Quick Sniff of Poppers, from drag duo Cookie and Kashida. Deep Sniff is available wherever you get your favorite books, and on Amazon.ca, Deep Sniff has a rating of 4 out of 5 stars.
When I was just a lad, I learned that anal sex was bad. The church said it was a dirty, rotten sin. But then I learned from other guys that no matter what the size, there's a simple trick to help you take that dick. Just Quick snip of poppers helps the penis slide right in. The penis slides right in. You can take it with a grin. Just a quick snip of poppers helps the penis slide right in the most delightful way.
In the winter of 1866, actually, while a medical student in Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, Brunton met a patient called William H. This young man was only 26, but already had trained as a blacksmith and then switched to toll keeper. His first job may have required too much exertion for him to continue because Brunton's notes reveal that William suffered from heart trouble. When Brunton met him, William had recently been hit by a dull, heavy pain about the left nipple every 3 days or so, lasting for at least half an hour. The pain had come on after years of infrequent attacks ever since he'd suffered from rheumatism as a child. After a 3-week hospital stay earlier in the spring, William was back just before Christmas. Doctors gave him aconite, which slows the heart rate, and digitalis. When neither worked, Brunton gave him brandy. The strong stuff didn't help either, so there was only one thing for it. The experiment was not a stab in the dark. Brunton acted in a way that was consistent with his wishes to take basic research from the lab to the bedside, and only with a decent understanding of the actual effect in the body. He had read the work of another scientist, Richardson, that amyl nitrite dilated blood vessels, and had even discussed the effect with his colleague in Edinburgh, Arthur Gamgee, who had made some unpublished measurements of this effect. Brunton obtained some amyl nitrite from Gamgee, who made it for him, and consent for an experiment from his supervising physician. And this is how Brunton came to give his patient William amyl nitrite. On March the 12th, 1867, Brunton observed, "The pain came on as usual at 3 a.m. A few drops of nitrite of amyl were put on a towel and inhaled by the patient. The primary effect noticed was a suffusion of the face, and the patient felt a glow over his face and chest. The pain disappeared almost simultaneously with the occurrence of these phenomena, but returned in 3 minutes. He then inhaled 5 drops more. The pain again disappeared and did not return."
I met this guy once in a bar who took me outside to his car. He spread my cheeks and tried to ram it in. I screamed, "No, it's too big!" He said, "Take it all, you pig!" Then he shoved this small brown bottle up my nose. And girl, I gotta tell you something. That quick snip of poppers helped the penis slide right in. The penis slide right in. Now I can take it with a grin. Just a quick snip of poppers helps the penis slide right in the most delightful way.
Good queer performers push their audiences forward into the future they desire. A good performance is utopia for a moment. In the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, all of these potential utopias were willed away when the police stormed in. Performances interrupted, orgasms foregone, connections broken. The police brought their alternative performance. The police did not just want to stop what was happening, they wanted to make their own utopia for a moment. They pulled on their costumes and they put themselves to work on embodying authority, power, intimidation. As individual officers, people with homes and hobbies, they had been moved by some newspaper stories about a deadly sex craze and by others that spoke of a horrible illness killing men who had sex with each other. They heard the words of politicians who spoke about preserving families and protecting children. As individuals, they may even have wanted no more gay or queer people. As an organized group of individuals, each wanting to belong to something bigger than they were, police officers were grabbed by the idea of cutting the number of queer venues. All we have is the records of their group performance, the way they stopped gay and queer people. They arrested our futures, at least for a night or two. The story of these raids is a story from the past, but it is about how we live in the present, creating a future. In every moment we are performing, making choices about the future we want to build for ourselves and others. We can be inspired by other people who are better than us at articulating a future, but it is not some distant, formless thing. How we are living now is always creating a future, whether we like it or not. Whether or not we are trying, we are performing a future. As a genderqueer dancer stretches the limbs they have, they bring us into their utopia for a moment.
Wow, this stuff is amazing! Yeah, let me try some. I've never done it before. Wow, this is hot. Shit. Hey, Cookie, let's put something in my ass and see if it works. I just dropped the whole thing on the carpet. Here, bend over. Let me try this chair. Oh my God, I can't even feel anything. Shit, the whole thing fits. Wow, the room right now. These are great, but you know what? You can't use them if you're taking Viagra.
Why?
Well, because you'll die.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Wow, this stuff is amazing. So this goes out to all the guys who are too concerned with size. It really doesn't matter anymore.
As you watch his manhood grow, shove that bottle up your nose. Relax,
Relax
your hole,
and
slide down on that pole. Just a quick snip of puppets, help the penis slide right in. The penis slide right in. You can take it with a grin. Just a quick snip of puppets, help the penis slide right in. In the most delightful,
making it not frightful.
in the most delightful way.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, Box of Sin. Mark Wood, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well. I have got a new knee, but apart from that, I'm reasonably cheerful.
How are you feeling then? Are you doing all right?
I'm okay. Look, it's getting better every day, but I had to have a new knee put in, and too many years running on treadmills at gyms, and I had a good operation and a bad experience afterwards, because who knew 10% of Caucasian people are immune to codeine? So I was gubbing this codeine back and I wasn't getting any pain relief. So
Wow.
I had to go back into the hospital, and basically they gave me heroin to bring home, like really strong morphine stuff.
Oh my God.
So I was on that, but all that was amazing, you know, dangerously lovely. But I sort of weaned myself off that. So now, yeah, I'm fine. I'm on one crutch. I won't be dancing to any high energy for a while. Or hopefully, maybe by Christmas I'll be off the crutches. But yeah, it's slow. It's just a drag. You know, I'm trapped in. I like bombing around and going out and about, and yeah, I'm sort of stuck here at the moment. So feeling a bit like Joan Crawford in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. You know, stuck in her wheelchair.
I have to say, Mark Wood, thank you and your new knee for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond, especially to talk about a new box set, a new music box set called Box of Sin. So I like to start my interviews by building from the ground up. So talk to me about your involvement with this fantastic new music box set, Box of Sin. What's your involvement with this?
Well, I work as a music consultant for various UK record labels. I'm based in London, so I work for Universal Music. I work for Demon Music, which is the Box of Sin label. I work for a little indie label called Needle Mythology, who are doing some exciting stuff. I work for BMG, and my job is coming up with new ideas for catalogue artists, you know, telling stories about great artists, or presenting, you know, historic recordings in new ways. I'm really attracted to, I like the idea of taking a cultural moment and kind of making something physical that sort of accompanies that moment. In this case, we're talking about gay nightlife in the 1980s. So I did the title was something I came up with when I was watching during lockdown over here, we had a fantastic Russell T Davies drama called It's a Sin. And that program was about AIDS in London and how it affected a group of young, very young men in London in the 1980s, and all of the the horrific experiences at the hands of the medical profession and politicians and the media and society at large. The sort of plague narrative, and it was very, very good, very, very moving. It's well worth a watch if you guys get it. There, but one thing that did slightly not kind of ring completely true was the fact that the music in it didn't sound like what I remembered hearing in clubs in the 80s. So I think there was some artistic license there, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if you could celebrate, because I sort of came of age in the mid 1980s. I went to my first gay venue in Camden Town in London in 1984. So I was there for most of it, going to pubs and clubs and hearing music around, and it was actually a lot more diverse than people thought. And I wanted to reflect that musical diversity in London anyway. You had your sort of gay super clubs like Heaven, which are, fantastic, sophisticated sound systems, that very kind of forward-thinking electronic music. There was a massive, thriving alternative gay scene as well, which was much more your edgy electro pop, your Soft Cell and Depeche Mode. There was a lot of out and out, massive chart pop. I mean, the charts were so gay for such a homophobic time. The charts were probably more gay than they've ever been before or since in the 1980s. So I wanted to reflect that. And then, the divas who were always with us in our nightlife, your Donna Summers, Aretha Franklin. So I wanted to sort of tip the hat to the fact that, we heard a lot of divas in the 80s, as we do now. And then towards the end of the 80s, when I was properly on the scene, house music, it's where house music came through from Chicago and was instantly sort of taken up by the gay clubs here first. And that really set the tone for the 90s in British clubbing, where you just didn't hear anything except house. I mean, that was the start of something. So you start at the beginning of the decade with a sound that's very much related to disco. You go through the middle of the decade when it gets kind of much more electronic, and disco turns into a much kind of more programmed and electronic sound. And then at the end, you've got house music. And that's what I was trying to achieve with Box of Sin, to kind of make it the perfect accompaniment to this great TV show I'd seen. And also, what I would say about Box of Sin that really excited me about this music that was heard at gay clubs. We called them gay clubs then. We call them different things now, queer clubs or LGBTQ spaces, whatever. But in those days, gay clubs, I'm using this term because that's what they were then. It didn't matter where a record came from. So on the collection, you've got stuff coming at you from Italy, loads of stuff from the US, obviously. You've got these kind of little amateurish electronic duos suddenly having massive hits in gay clubs, from the north of England. You've got South African artists. It really was such a mixed bag. People recording in France, that have emigrated to France from America, and all of these beautiful sounds made for a truly international experience. So while I was thinking about my London clubbing experiences, this stuff was happening in New York, it was happening in Berlin, it was happening in Sydney, it was happening the whole world over. And some of it was happening in the mainstream heterosexual pop charts, if only they knew it. They just didn't always know that.
So we have 12-inch mixes, I believe 54 tracks on CD and vinyl. You've got artists like you just mentioned, Donna Summer, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Dead or Alive, Bronski Beat. You've got Bananarama, Boy George, and many, many more. So talk to me about the process of curating these tracks that would make up this 5 CD set. And I believe on the vinyl, it's 24 tracks in total. Talk to me about the process of curating this, because my understanding is you also used club charts from that time frame to help you. So talk to me about the curation process.
Sure. So it started with me, sketching out these 4 or 5 different areas that I thought we could theme, divas, high energy, house, etc. And so sort of started off with those, and I just got a spreadsheet going, Mark, and just started dumping track titles in the spreadsheet as I remembered, enjoying them, in my own club nights. And then I looked at the actual club charts. We had a great magazine here in the 80s called Record Mirror, and Gay Times also published queer clubbing charts. So there were 2 places you could look at. They were called the Boys Town charts, in the early 80s, but and then they were called the gay charts and stuff. So I sort of went through those as a sort of sense check to see if my memory was serving me well, and in some cases it was, and in others I unearthed things which I'd completely forgotten about how big they were on the dance floors of heaven or wherever. So it was sort of fairly robust, and I had I've got a great circle of friends and people that I've met in nightclubs over the years who were there as well, and I used them as a springboard, and they would say, don't forget XYZ, don't forget Passion by the Flirts, don't forget this. And we ended up with a very, very long list of about 150 songs. Wow. Eventually. So and then that's the dream, to put out a 15 CD box set or whatever, but they've never let us do that, which is why the vinyl is half the size of tracks, because it's just would make it so expensive, it'd be prohibitive. So and then you go into a process called licensing, Mark, and that's when you find out whether the rights owners will let you use the music, and some of them,
when the rubber meets the road.
That's right, reality bites. And that's when you find out that, so-and-so, Pet Shop Boys, for example, weren't clearing at the time we were doing this box. They were working on their own recent greatest hits, so they just temporarily said, can't help you out, mate. So we got Liza Minnelli and we got Dusty Springfield on there instead, who were both Pet Shop Boys productions. And, were we to do a volume 2, which, I'd love to do, hopefully we'd go back and the Pet Shop Boys would be open. And then you've got many labels, little European labels that own so much of the gorgeous Eurobeat stuff that I wanted. We just couldn't find the rights holders, and you don't want someone coming after you. So that was sort of, there were a few things that we just ran out of time. We ran out of road. We had to close the licensing process, and we then what you're working with. You've got your 54 tracks or whatever, but it's just the nice part is sequencing them, putting them in order and getting sleeve notes together. We did spend nearly a year on the concept and the checking and the sleeve notes research, because sleeve notes are quite extensive in Box of Sin.
Well, you just mentioned the sleeve notes. It features an introduction by renowned gay author Paul Burston, and you just mentioned it took over a year, the process to put this all together.
Yes, probably. Yes. And
that sounds quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's never as quick as the record label would like. They'd like everything out next week. But Paul came on. Paul's been a friend of mine since the mid-90s. helped establish a club in London called Ducky, which is still going. And we were more of an alternative kind of cabaret, very punk kind of thing. And in the 90s, I was DJing there, and I met Paul Burston, who at the time was the working for Time Out, which was, our big listings magazine in London. And Paul's always been very supportive. He's sort of had the same clubbing journey that I did. And I thought he writes so beautifully about, coming out, going onto the scene for the first time, being young and gay from Wales in the big city. And he just completely knocked it out of the park. He wrote a beautiful introduction for us. And I think it sort of resonates with a lot of our experiences when you move to, an unfamiliar place. And you've got that kind of frisson of excitement about finally you're going to be yourself, but also it's scary.
Okay, so you've got some great music. You've got pretty much wall-to-wall dance music. You've got some great artists. But it all ends with, and I'm telling you, I'm not going from, of course, the musical and the movie, a great song. I think I know the answer to this question, but talk to me about ending on a ballad with this box set.
Yeah, sure. So two things going on there, really. Obviously, it's three things, maybe. One, it's the I went to so many clubs and parties and house parties and one-off nights, and it still happens to this day. And at the end, when the lights went on, that would often be the song that they would play to stop dancing and to get you out of the toilets. And that would be fun. So
the ugly lights come on.
Exactly. So it was a very, very effective and also, cathartic and amazing way to end a brilliant night out in the city. Secondly, a lot more seriously, it soundtracked an awful lot of funerals for people who died of AIDS. It was a beautiful, and poignant song that was heard at a lot of services. The other one being Don't Lead Me This Way, which is also on the set as in the version by the Communards. And thirdly, it was just because, I don't know, I think I can probably count in the hundreds the number of drag queens I've seen lip syncing to I'm Telling You I'm Not Going. It feels like, while it's not a dance track and the box set is ostensibly about the dance floor, it felt like such a important part of of that decade, and to this day, that sort of song, that sort of defiance. Because if Box of Sin is about anything, it's about dancing with defiance in the face of some pretty shitty stuff, going on out there, which the 80s was very, very painful for lots of people, especially for gay people. It was hard, and you had to make your own fun. And what came out of it was this incredibly joyous music and this culture that pretty much invented how we're still clubbing today.
And on that note, we'll return after this Rainbow Country update.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony Alago, music executive, photographer, author, and you are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
As you may know, Rainbow Country airs on independent radio, community and campus radio, as well as on streaming. Over the past few weeks, various outlets that carry Rainbow Country have been having their funding drives. Well, I wanted to take this opportunity to give a special shout out to the following individuals who donated to show their support for Canadian independent radio. Singer-songwriter, musician, spoken word artist, and rapper, the Megfather, Bob Katz. Bob Katz, I thank you for your support. By the way, stay tuned because in hour 2, I'll be featuring a 3-song Bob Katz set. His current album is 6 Cans of Olives and is available wherever you get your favorite music. Broadcaster Carol B., producer and host of syndicated music radio show Ruby Slippers. Carol B., I thank you for your support. By the way, you can hear Ruby Slippers on CIUT FM Fridays, 7 p.m. Finally, folk artist Kendall Partington. Kendall Partington, I thank you for your support. His current album is called Milestones, and in hour 2, I'll be featuring a 3-song Kendall Partington set. Thank you all for having your voice, your support be heard for Canadian independent radio. If you would like to donate to an outlet that does carry Rainbow Country, simply head over to marktara.com and hit the syndication banner. That's where you'll find the 12 outlets that carry this little gay radio show. Rainbow Country, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, Canadian champion in ice dance and 3-time Olympian, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
So Mark Wood, you are a music consultant, you're a songwriter, you're a musician, you are a DJ. So here's a question. Who are the Reader's Wives?
They are the Reader's Wives was, it's not a name I would particularly. When Ducky was starting at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, for those of you who don't know, is a very historic queer venue in South London, right on the River Thames, and it's been there since the Georgian times, Regency London. And it's a big round tavern with a stage, and it has pretty much been at the forefront of queer London since at least the First World War. Wow. 100 years. So by the time we rock up to the 90s, there was a bunch of us who kept running into one another, and we had this 4-week offer from the Vauxhall Tavern, which was not on its last legs, but it had seen better days. I mean, it wasn't, it was quiet, and they didn't really have much going on their Saturday night. So they gave it, we were just stupid kids, they said you can have it for a month. And Simon Strange, who still runs Ducky, just said, do you want to DJ for 4 weeks? And so I said, I don't want to do it on my own. I'll do it with my best friend. And I don't know why we said it. We said we'd do it in drag. We'd never done drag. But it was just 4 weeks, Mark. We weren't really thinking, and we had to cover name. And in British seedy porn magazines at the time, there was always a reader's wife section where people would send in photos of themselves with no clothes on. Women would send in pictures of themselves. It was pretty. It really wasn't something that we thought that much about. We just had to have a name. And then what happened after that was Ducky just became phenomenally successful. By week 3, we had queues going around the block. You couldn't get in. We were more surprised than anybody because we hadn't taken it that seriously. And we had such low expectations of that night that we were terrified that it would look empty. So we'd filled the dance floor with old 1970s sofas and standard lamps and chairs and armchairs. And, with all these people suddenly start turning up, we'd be like pushing the furniture out the door to make more room so people could actually come in. And I guess it was just me and my best friend mucking about.
Is that Mark Johnston?
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise known as Jelly, and he's still my best friend and still my DJ partner. And we felt like, okay, well, let's do it they said, do you want to do January? And then January was extended to the following Easter, and then 4 weeks turned into 30 years almost. 28 years we're on now. So
but you guys were a duo.
We were a DJ duo, yeah, that's right, because I just didn't want to do it on my own. I mean, you've got London was amazing in the 90s because it felt it was so much more optimistic and light than the 80s had been. There was a lot of reasons for that, but there was the whole London suddenly felt very, very cool again for a few years. And there was a brilliant spirit of do it yourself, just set up your own club, set up your, just be a DJ, and I think we caught that wave and we used it as an opportunity to just play all the things loud that we wanted to hear loud. Some of the stuff we played, I don't think anyone had ever played in clubs before. Like we played Kate Bush and, stuff like really mad records, and thinking that we would only be the only people that would be enjoying it. And that's led to a long time. So I never wanted to be a full-time DJ. It was always something really nice to do with my best friend at the weekend, and it still is. So Ducky is going strong, still putting on very left of center performance, and we're still playing the music that we like. So yeah, that's where the Reader's Wives came from. But were we to do it again, I think we'd probably think a lot clearer about what we wanted to be called for 30 years.
So then 2016 comes around and you guys release Gaslight.
Yeah, I think Gaslight came out before that actually, but I can't take too much credit for the music side. I wrote the lyrics for that album, but we had some regulars from the club called Jez and Mark who had a lot of synths and a lot of computers and were very clever. And they said, please can we make some music? And Mark Jelly is a really good singer. I've got no singing voice, so I sort of chipped in with some ideas for how I thought records should feel, and I wrote the lyrics. And yeah, we had some fun doing that one. We keep saying we must do another one, but life gets in the way. It's like
Box of Sin.
Box of Sin and all the other things I'm doing. I'm working with Soft Cell at the moment, and that's been consuming me.
What are you doing with Soft Cell?
We've announced a very big fan of Soft Cell, and I do work with Mark a lot. But we've announced a big box set of Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret, which was the debut album, which is Tainted Love album. And it's sort of everything. And there's new stuff on there, and there's unreleased stuff, and there's the original album. And we've just mixed it at Abbey Road Studios in Atmos, Dolby Atmos. So that was just the first time I've ever sort of tried doing something like that, working with engineers and making old audio into something that's completely immersive. And we're having today's job is inviting people to a very small and select playback in Soho Square to hear it in the Dolby Cinema there. So it's like no two projects are the same. I've been working with Girls Aloud this year. I look after the catalogue for Roxy Music. There's always something going on, and hopefully another box of sin. I really do like telling these stories. I really think the amazing design of the box, which I think really sells it. It's just so beautiful looking, and I can't take any credit for that. I found a young agency in East London called Oink, who I just sent them 3 black and white pictures from Getty of gay men in heaven in the early 80s. And I said, I just need it to feel like this.
Is the cover, is it Tom of Finland?
No, it's actually a composite of several pictures, photography, that this terrific young artist called John Conlon, who works for Oink, he wasn't born when these records were out, but he just got it. He just got the whole concept, and he found several pictures. I think the moustache on that picture is painted on, or maybe the ball gag on the version inside. Maybe that's the bit that's painted on. But he was very clever with it, and very clever with the color and all of the little kind of visual riffs. What I did with John is I took him to. I wanted it to look like the 80s. I didn't want it to look like something from the 2020s. So I took him to the Queer Institute in Bishopsgate in Liverpool Street in London, where they have an amazing British queer archive. And you can just go in, and it's a library. And they were very, very helpful. And they gave us boxes and boxes of Gay Times. And I said, make the sleeve notes look like the Gay Times small ads from the 80s. So that's why it looks like it does. And the Bishopsgate Institute also provided, photography and guidance. And they, it was one of those projects where everybody is really good at it. So we had great help from Bishopsgate. We had great design people on board. We had a very supportive record label, and it all came together into something that was, sort of quite satisfying.
How did you settle on the cover for the set, the profile, like of all things, the profile? Because it does remind me of Tom of Finland, like those.
Well, we love Tom, yeah, exactly.
Those images.
That's kind of the point. Well, I mean, that was sort of the point, really, Mark, because looking through the Gay Times,
very, leather, denim, that sort of thing.
There was lots of that going on.
Yeah. The handkerchiefs of different colors are what they meant.
Absolutely. So it was hankies and leathers and chaps and check shirts and a lot of moustaches. And, it was if you going through those Gay Times, there were sorts of 2 or 3 main looks for gay men, and they would be the leather look. There was a sort of alternative, more androgynous look, bit of makeup, lot of eyeliner, very Depeche Mode, that kind of thing. Or a bit later, you start getting something which is a bit more clean cut and gym focused, shaved heads and topless and, really good gym bodies and little shorts and everything. So, he picked up on the leather look as being sort of like pretty representative of what we were trying to reflect, especially for the early years of the music in the box set. That was the look. And, again, 17, 18 years old, it was quite terrifying, skinny and going to places, and you've got all these kind of beefy men with moustaches wearing leather. It was heady. Would
you agree with the following statement that I'm about to make? And the statement is simply this: the influence of 80s gay nightlife has had an influence on electronic music, on pop music, on the evolution of clubbing. Would you agree with that statement? Is that a fair statement to make?
100%, because I think 100%. I think that lots of the things which happened in gay clubs first, and you can pick one out of the air. So, electronic music.
Madonna. Do you think Madonna would be here without the support of the gay community?
No, I know, and I think she would be the first to admit it. Whenever straight audiences do not seem to be as loyal to their artists. Maybe some of them are, but the Beatles fans or whatever. But I wanted to do the Divas disc for Box of Sin because I do think there is something about that relationship between these kind of very powerful singers and that crowd, and the late nights, the lighting, the strobes, even the drugs. I think that straight people started behaving like gay people in nightclubs towards the end of the decade when house came in, and we had over here we had this huge explosion of house, and that's when the barriers really broke down between gay clubs for a while. Between queer spaces and straight places, because everybody was just digging the same stuff, and for a while it was very, very mixed and polysexual, to use a sort of word that we used to use in the 90s.
Who do you think is the audience for Box of Sin?
I always think it's not a good idea to think too much about who they are. What I do is I think, okay, so what would I buy? That's where I start with these things. I'm first and foremost a music fan, and I see a lot of I see a lot of endlessly recycled albums with the same music on. They all kind of look the same, and I just sort of think, well, how do we kind of make this feel a bit more cared for, and elevated? It's why we went to Bishopsgate. It's why we found a designer. It's why we didn't just slap, like a random library picture on the front and just get on with it. I think if you, I know that I'm what I would buy if I couldn't make it, and I know that I probably know enough people who I suspect would probably make it too. I'm always suspicious. I think the music industry, like a lot of industries, is run far too much on market research and demographics, and I think it takes a lot of the romance out. Maybe I'm just an old romantic, but I think it takes a lot of the fun and the romance out of it. It was all done on feel, really, thinking I just know this. It's like when you're a DJ and you hear something new and you think that's never going to work, or that's really going to work on a dance floor, and it will work on the dance floor at 1ish, 1ish in the morning. It's a feel thing, and it's like I sort of go by that, really. I mean, and hope that what I'm encouraged by is that a lot of the younger people who they know a bit of 80s, they know a bit about their culture. I've seen some very sweet things about that. From that sort of generation below mine. I'm a Gen Xer. If millennials and Gen Z get it too, then that's absolutely fine by me.
So there's a Canadian film called Outrageous. So it was made back in 1977, and it stars Craig Russell. And Craig Russell is was a female impersonator, and he sang live. He would basically become like, Barbara Streisand and all these people like from the 70s.
That's amazing.
And he did a film called Outrageous in 1977, and it's featured in a there are scenes in there. It's shot here. It's Canadian. It's done here in Toronto.
I'm looking at the movie poster now.
Yeah, and there's scenes in a nightclub there called the Manatee when they're on stage
Right.
and they're doing drag and singing, that sort of thing. But that's where I was in the Manatee in the 80s when I first heard Madonna. And
fellow
I was
traveler.
and I was dancing my little underage booty off, and because it was it was they didn't serve alcohol, so anyone can go, and they were open from like 10 to 6 a.m. like Monday, like from Friday to Sunday. But that's when I first heard Madonna's Holiday.
Oh wow! Right. Okay.
And it was in that space, and then I heard it weeks later on the radio.
Of course, because the radio took weeks to catch up with the gay clubs.
Exactly, and so this is this music is the soundtrack to my underage youth.
I could not believe. I mean, my first experience was around that same year, I think. So, "Jump for My Love," which is on the box, Pointer Sisters. This was I was collecting for the miners' strike. I was collecting money to support some striking workers, and somebody said, "Come." You know, I was 17. I was underage too. Come here. You know, we're going to this place at lunchtime on a Sunday. And I just could not believe people were allowed to do it. I couldn't believe you could have a disco on a Sunday in the middle of London when, you know, everyone's at home polishing the car or waiting for Sunday dinner. And there were drag queens and, you know, Leathermen and stuff. It was just like that. It was like, I can't believe that we're getting away with this. It's the best thing in the world.
Did you guys have tea dances? Were those popular back?
Yes, we did.
There,
you know, in
the afternoon.
Yes, we did have tea dances, and they were very popular. And there's a picture in the booklet of the CD, I think, of a couple of lesbian girls at a tea dance. There was a really famous one. The music in the London tea dances were very much, it was quite sedate. So it was a lot of, you know, Connie Francis and Doris Day. It was that kind of 50s and 60s chic, bit of Motown, you know, that kind of. So yeah, it was, but we did, and you know, that is another sort of string to the diversity of clubbing in that decade. Yeah.
So Mark Wood, here's my last question for you, and it's simply this: you were talking earlier about, you know, telling stories through this box set. So what do you hope listeners come away with, other than having a good time and dancing to this amazing music? What do you hope, over and above that audiences come away with after they've heard Box of Sin?
I hope that people what the sort of philosophy, if you like, behind it, apart from wanting people to listen to some amazing records, I hope that people realize that, you know, when times are really dark, and I don't want to trivialize anything for anybody, but the 80s was particularly shitty for gay people, gay men and lesbians and bisexuals, and, you know, and queer people and trans people, pretty fucking bad. I think that out of all of that, what was built was a really kind of vibrant and thriving creativity, community, sense of togetherness. Dancing in a nightclub is all about togetherness and people coming together in defiance of the shitty time that they're having. And, you know, that is what I hope, is that, you know, you can still love and laugh and dance in the face of adversity. I think, and you know, that's what that's what kept striking me as I was listening and remembering the people that were lost to AIDS, especially, and the number of funerals that you'd hear about, and, you know, all of the great artists that we lost through AIDS, and just thinking, but even so, people didn't give up. People kept on making music, enjoying music. People kept on dancing with each other, loving each other, whatever.
Mark Wood, well said, well done, well made, well curated. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had to think about some of those answers because you made me articulate quite a lot of what was going on in my head. So, thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be asked.
Box of Sin is available wherever you get your favorite music. And stay tuned because in Hour 2, I'll be featuring a 3-song Box of Sin set. By the way, it's Jennifer Holliday that ends this box set with the iconic track, And I'm Telling You I'm Not Going, from Dreamgirls.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com where everything is connected and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms. And finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, I'm Agnes. My new record, Magic Still Exists, is out now. You are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.